Welcome. Welcome to this week's BTO talk on AI, generative AI, digital leadership, and more. And today, great news. We are back, the three of us, all together. My name is Michael Alf, calling from Lisbon, and we are the co-founders of Beyond the Obvious, working actually really globally with clients on these topics around digital transformation. Handing over to Markus.
Hi there, Markus Keiper, professor at NUS for marketing, and as Michael said, co-founder with my two wonderful colleagues here. We really help you to get ahead in the game of generative AI, and we have a lot of use cases and proof of concepts to share with you, including today. Rob.
Yes, thank you, Markus. Rob Thurner here in London, just back from Saudi, working right now with some clients on customer experience, which is a recurring theme and, of course, ties in very neatly with our big theme, generative AI. So we'll come on to that a little later. Now, Michael, we kick off usually with some tech news. Where do we start today? Can you pick up one highlight to share before we move into our main topic?
Absolutely, Rob. What I'd like to touch briefly on is models again. Yeah, so it's from time to time there are new models coming out, and that is continuing. The other thing we are seeing, and Anthropic is a good example with Haiku 4.5, that actually there's some competition within organizations with models. So Anthropic has more than one model and different price points, and quite different price points. So we're talking about a factor of 5 or 10 in terms of input and output. And when a model, kind of one technicality, you always have an input cost, which is your prompt, and an output cost, which is your result. Both are important, of course. And when you are developing a solution, you need to look at both. By the way, one of the things in workshops I ask, when you do an MVP or prototype, where do you start? With the most expensive and best model or with the cheapest model? And when you think that through, most people say, well, we start with a cheap model. So that's wrong. Yeah, you always start with the best model, the most expensive model, because you want to prove that it's actually working, and then you see how you can reduce the cost. So just a comment around models. It is important. Is it important for everyone? Probably not. But in your applications, in your use cases, it is definitely important. With that, let's kind of pass on to Markus again.
Yeah, so we always have one topic for you, simply to advance your thinking about it, and maybe also giving you good arguments to start with generative AI or to find the right spot to. So one is actually to understand where the skills of people will be in the future. And Michael, you have done a little bit of research here. You want to share that with us?
Yeah, definitely the work with the clients, and it's amazing. I mean, the combination, the three of us, the number of workshops and sessions we've been running just this month is incredible. Yeah, so we really speak from the practitioner point of view. We're doing these things, we're developing actually solutions, we're working with clients on these things. So it's not theoretical. But also there is, of course, a theoretical component. Yeah, so we're looking into actually some of the developments. And for one opportunity, we were looking into kind of the rising duality of skill sets. What does that mean? You know, when you look at the WEF report from basically beginning of this year, but it's still kind of emerging as super relevant, and I'll share kind of one slide. It shows clearly there are two very different skill sets required going forward into 2030. So I'm sharing now the slide, you see here, you don't have to kind of read, of course, all the details. That's why I put that up here. So core skills in 2030. Here's my mouse, yeah. And here is kind of the summary. And what we have is AI and big data, tech literacy, and then it gets interesting. Creativity, thinking, resilience, leadership, and similar. So you see this extreme duality of very, very, very different skill sets, but they're all top in the top corner. And if you bring that together, you have this image emerging. Yeah, and with that, I want to kind of pass on to Rob in a second. So you see here both soft skills and AI tech skills need to hit the bullseye to be successful. And this is a huge challenge on the individual level, every single leader, but also for an organization. Rob, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, this, and it ties in with I was just moderating a customer experience event in Saudi, and one of the panel discussions was all around how do we bring in transformation into our teams and the challenges that we face from a leader perspective. And this was a core question we had in the financial services sector, a number of speakers. And the big challenge is to make sure that we don't lead with the tech team coming up with the transformation concept and expecting others in the organization to follow it through, nor do we start purely with the transformation leader, but we need to bring in as early as possible those with different skill sets in designing and co-creating what the solution will look like. And once we've got their input early, we can overcome some objections. They're coming from very different perspectives, different ways of solving challenges. Bring them in and co-design early. We then bring a team with multi-skills to drive the program forward. The other one was mentioned, which was really interesting. We need to make sure that there's likely to be resistance. Let's align what we're doing with the core strategy of the organization. What are the key points that we're already aligned on? And if we can agree that, then the way that we deliver, the way we build our prototype solution is likely to overcome those objections that come. And then the final one is celebrate quick wins. If you've got things that are working early, make sure that around the organization that's understood, and whether you've got people responsible on in your graphic here on the tech skills or in the soft skills, that we have some KPIs they both agree on, and we're celebrating those successes. So I think that ties in very neatly with this graphic, and underlying, I think there's a huge amount of mileage in this, in helping organizations match these two areas and bring them both together in their transformation journeys. Markus, how does that align with some of the thinking you're having in your conversations?
Yeah, these are three very, very interesting and important points you just raised, Rob, and I fully agree with them. I would like to have a thought of someone in an organization, guys, where I read this maybe, Michael, and I think like, is it really a combination of soft skill and AI tech skills? That does everyone have to have this? Or is it me as a leader? And what is about the middle management or the people working with me in my medium to large organization? And secondly, is the question about how do I actually introduce this to my organization? Now, I think the first message Michael is sending from this slide is that in the future, if you do not have AI skills and tech skills, you might not be in demand anymore. That is one message. Of course, the same is valid for soft skills. Secondly, my thoughts are the following. If you think about, you have people then with soft and AI skills, and they might be in the top of the organization. How do you actually bring this down into the rest of the organization? Because we need, as leaders, we need to ensure that the rest of the organization has these skills as well. Now think about the younger generation, how they think about the maybe a little bit more mature organization, let's call us like this. They might feel like we are highly skilled in Gen AI and agentic AI, and these guys don't understand the future. So one challenge you face in your organization of the future will be this conversation. Are you on top of AI, Gen AI, or are the people in your organization higher qualified and they look at you like you are not on top of what's happening? Michael, what are your thoughts? And I believe this might have been some of the conversations you had as well.
Absolutely, Markus. You're you're hitting the bullseye clearly. Let's have a quick look at kind of our perspective on kind of the requirement of skills. And we do believe everyone, from the CEO to basically every employee, does have to have a certain level of AI and in particular Gen AI skills. So because it's so fundamental, and the fundamental component of that is it's the steam engine of the mind, as as Reid Hoffman said so correctly. So it really is kind of happening here. And because we're all working with this kind of here between our ears, we are all impacted. So we can't outsource that to the IT department. We can't say the CIO, and that's what Robert, you said correctly. Yeah. So the risk is, of course, that kind of the drive happens from the IT side, because they get it earlier. Yeah, they understand it early, and they're excited about the technology and so on. But you have to take that into kind of the organization. And I think it has to be owned by the CEO. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think this is a key one, which we're seeing, and the CEO is not committed and not owning it. I think you're getting on the wrong track. Then to the other point, how do you break it down? Well, I think kind of it's about utilizing the
We're just waiting for Michael to get his voice back. So Rob, in the interim, any examples you have had in recent workshops where this conversation of up and down in the organization played a role?
Yeah, it comes up. I'm thinking of a recent example. There was a discussion around whether we should start with a mandate from the top, or we should start with developing a prototype solution lower down the organization. And based on the results of that, we've got a proof of concept that we can then share with the senior leadership to show that this is the right way around. And to be honest, I don't think there's a right answer. In that instance, the team that came up with the lower down solution got ahead and developed their idea, and we're waiting to see the feedback. Once they've got the outcome, and what they're wanting to show is how they join together the different team members, how they've developed a solution with some tangible results, and they're showing how the AI solution has saved time in their case. This is an HR function. Once they've got that result, they can go to the senior leadership team and say, hey, this is the way to go. It was a relatively low risk way of proving the point, and that will then be used, if their plan rolls out, for other challenges around the organization. I think the other approach is more valuable but harder to get to, which is an agreement top level. This is the way we need to work, and then set some clear principles. Inevitably, the question of governance raises its head very early. If we're going to do this, what about the risks? And remember, we've got to bring those naysayers involved, those in compliance, those who are responsible for customer-facing interaction, who are saying, hey, we're only going to do this with our internal teams before we then venture into client-facing activities. So that's the other way to go. I would say it depends on how close you are to the leadership team, whether you can get buy-in for a top-down approach. And if you can't, starting with something lower down, it would be a valuable alternative. The one thing I would say without question is we just can't afford to sit back and wait for others to do it. We need to jump in there. Whichever approach you take, I think there are pros and cons on each, but doing it fast is the answer.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob. This is exactly what I'm thinking as well, and what I discuss with leaders in my many seminars, workshops, and advisory sessions, and coaching sessions as well. Gen AI is a boardroom topic or a top management topic. If you are not addressing the topic, you might really drive a very risky road in becoming obsolete or definitely behind. All of your competitors are discussing this. To the topic of should it start in the boardroom or from the organization, you can do both, but definitely the boardroom, Rob, has to be involved. You can't keep this going alone in an organization. Before we leave, maybe I'll leave you with one tip we always give to our clients. Many of them ask us, so what budget should we have, right, Rob? What budget should we have? It's so expensive and whatever. Well, the best approach is actually not to start with a big budget, but with a budget for a project, as Rob called it, a proof of concept, proof of value, where the results will actually pay for the next investment of AI. For example, if you use it in CRM or in marketing or communications or sales, and you reach maybe 20 to 30% efficiency, you take these efficiency results in order to pay for the next AI phase. And through that, you create a lot of credibility, and you actually fundraise it or finance it through your own activities, and it becomes bigger and bigger, and people will ask, can I please be part of that? Because that's really great. So with that, Rob, I guess we wrap it up for today. These are some practical topics. And Rob, we do this in seminars and advisory. So maybe a last word of advice for our listeners. How should they go ahead, and how can we help?
Well, please let us know. We've got, as you can tell from these weekly sessions, we're creating a lot of content. We're creating a very wide range of workshops and webinars across different functions in the organization, and also across verticals. I'm working a lot in banking, in government services, and telco. Markus, I know you've got expertise in other verticals. Michael's an expert in logistics and distribution. So please get in touch. Let us know what your challenge is. And even if it's just a one-off workshop rather than a whole work stream, please let us know. And we're very happy to come back to you with some ideas. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time preparing stuff because we've done a lot of the hard work already. So please get in contact. I hope you've enjoyed our session today. Michael, I hope, has now cleared his throat. He'll be with us for sure next time. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye for now. Where is he?
What?
He obviously stopped it.